Hal and I are going to hit three of the world's biggest topics. Starting now, Hal's on with us. Hal, good to see you as always. There's a lot to discuss today. We want to start with some exclusive reporting from Axios. They have this. They say Israel is okay with the U.S. selling F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia, but they want it to be conditioned on the Saudis normalizing its relations with Israel. That coming from reporting from Barak Ravid there with Axios. We are hearing, by the way, that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will meet with President Trump at the White House later on this week, on Tuesday. Hal, what does normalization actually mean? The idea of Israeli-Saudi normalization has caused friction in the region before.
Well, Austin, you could make an argument, and it has been made, that that Hamas's October 7th attacks were all based on the fear that Saudi Arabia would normalize ties with Israel, and that Hamas would have been completely marginalized. So they started this horrendous war that's pretty much destroyed the Gaza Strip to prevent that very thing from happening. What's interesting, though, is Israel's put this forward. Certainly, there's a lot of details that have to be worked out, but this is not dissimilar from what they had previously done under the Biden administration in talking about F-35 sales to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. Now, for other reasons, that sale didn't quite go through, and that was something under the Biden administration. So this is not a new concept of linking F-35 sales to normalization. As you know, the UAE is part of the Abraham Accords, and what they're talking about is Saudi Arabia would become part of the Abraham Accords. That is the power center, if you will, for the Arab or Sunni Muslim Middle East. That would really solidify the Abraham Accords and pretty much ensure, if you will, peace in the region, at least between nations, if that were to take effect. Not that there's any any real conflict between Saudi Arabia and Israel to speak of, but that would be a big change. Now, what they're saying is that the F-35s, depending on what they have with them, could shift the Israel's qualitative military advantage that they have in the region, and because of that, they say, look, let's normalize relations, make sure that we're in full diplomatic status. We can talk to them. We can coordinate with them overtly, officially, in terms of our military efforts regionally. And that shifts the balance, if you will, from being a potential threat at some point in the future. It has possibilities. It has distinct possibilities, I think, particularly because of what's just happened in the United Nations.
What would Iran think about the Saudis and the Israelis normalizing their diplomatic relations?
Absolutely 100% opposed to it. It is the worst thing they could possibly think of. First off, just to, in case anybody's missed it, there's a little bit of tension between the United States and Iran, okay? Just in case that's been missed.
You don't say.
But Saudi Arabia really is their regional sparring partner, if you will. That is those nations have been going at it for quite some time. Saudi Arabia, is the kingdom that guards the two holiest sites of Islam, Mecca and Medina, and they are the Sunni Muslim center, if you will. And then you have Iran, which is the Shiite Muslim center. And what is sometimes missed is the conflict between Shiites and Sunnis in Islam is probably much bigger than the conflict between Muslims and Jews, which most people are more familiar with in terms of Middle East conflict. So they would absolutely hate that. Now, we have had a very strong relationship with Saudi Arabia going way back. I did Desert Storm. I was interfacing and working with the Saudis extensively during that time period. So we do a lot of stuff with Saudi Arabia. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff with Israel. And so for us, it would be a real win. And it could possibly force the Iranians to concede on some things that we really do want them to concede on in terms of any aspirations towards weapons of mass destruction, like nuclear weapons, and some other things we'd like them to stop doing in the region.
Can you expand on what exactly the Saudis get out of F-35s? Explain to our audience who doesn't track military fighter jets as closely as you do. I don't, certainly. What specifically do we need to know about an F-35?
They are the state of the art. They are the best fighter that we have. Period. One could argue that the F-22 is a little bit better for air to air. There were some compromises made with the F-35, but it is a stealth fighter. The Israelis have been using it to great effect throughout the region. There are nobody. You're not going to get definitive reports, but the stealth characteristics seem to be very, very effective. They have been able to do strike missions where it was pretty clear that the Iranians and other Iranian proxies, if you will, couldn't pick up on the fact that the F-35s were even there. So they're absolutely air superiority in all respects. They are not cheap. They are very expensive. The Saudis want to buy 48 of these F-35s. That's approximately 4 squadrons of F-35s. It would significantly change the military air balance of power, if you will, certainly in the Gulf state region, having those there. And it would give the Saudis a capability they don't currently have. And the Saudis would love to have this for the same reason that UAE would love to have it, is because it would give them the ability to do things, strike missions or other things that they currently can't do. So they could actually go in and do something, if you will, if the situation were to require, similar to what Israel was able to do with the 12-day war. And that's certainly something Saudi Arabia thinks about, because Saudi Arabia has actually been on the receiving end of Iranian aggression, where the Iran actually caused significant damage at a oil refinery using its drone capability. And of course, as of right now, in the Strait of Hormuz, there's a tanker which apparently was intercepted and towed into Iranian waters, violating all the agreements of the Strait of Hormuz and how they, the lanes within the Strait of Hormuz and how the ships are supposed to be allowed to move freely. And it's not the first time Iran's done that. So yes, there's a lot of reasons why Saudi Arabia would want a fighter. It's not just a fighter; it's a fighter bomber. It air superiority, yes, but also great for airstrikes on the ground. Or, for example, if you want to take out, say, a drug-laden fast boat in the Caribbean, it's an excellent platform for that too.
All right. So there's recent examples of these things being used, is what you're saying.
Very.
Very recent. Let's see. A live look at the White House, just past 5 p.m. in the nation's capital. How has the U.S.-Saudi relationship evolved in the past year, Hal? What has this Trump White House meant for diplomacy between the two countries?
Well, the countries have really come together. As you recall, when President Biden came into office, he had actually campaigned against MBS, the Crown Prince, particularly over the killing of a U.S. resident who was a journalist in Turkey, and so it was very effective for him from a campaigning standpoint, but from a diplomatic standpoint, once he was in office, is very, very difficult, very tense. And then he had to make that trip to Saudi Arabia, where he actually met with the Crown Prince, and I don't think he really got what he wanted out of that trip. But we have traditionally had a very close relationship with Saudi Arabia going back, well, ever since there was a Saudi Arabia. Aramco, the big oil company, well, the Aramco, there's an American piece in that, hence in the name. And we've always had a very large presence of American expatriates that live in Saudi Arabia, that work certainly in the petrochemical industry, but also working on a variety of other things. So I think this last year, what we've seen since President Trump came into office, is rebuilding and reinforcing all of those ties. And I would say the U.S.-Saudi relationship is as close now as it's probably ever been.
MBS will be in D.C. this week, and the F-35 deal and U.S.-Saudi security agreements will be key topics at that meeting. What specifically are you listening for this week?
Well, I'm listening for what could be a grand deal, if you will. There is a proposal, if you will, a draft agreement that the U.S. has signed off on, UAE, Saudi Arabia, everything, talking about the Gaza Strip. Now, I have not heard that Israel has come out fully against that yet. But the fact that the Saudis and us have said, yes, we can vote for this, which is pretty key in the United Nations. If we could get that agreed to by the Israelis, I think that agreement, which at the end points towards a possible Palestinian state at the end of that thing, not definitive, not clear what that would be exactly, but it would give Saudi Arabia probably what it needs politically to turn around and say, okay, with that, if the Israelis go along with this, we can probably agree to the Abraham Accord. That would be what was needed for the F-35 sale. And Steve Witkoff is going in to meet with Hamas, I think today or tomorrow, very soon. He's going to meet directly with them. And with all of those things taking place, I think it would really strengthen his hand to get Hamas to move into a substantive phase 2 level of agreement where they disarm and turn over power in the Gaza Strip. So that's what I'm kind of looking for this week. The potential seeds for a grand bargain, if you will, between multiple players. A lot of different things going on. You got Israel, you got Saudi Arabia, you got the UN, you got Washington. A lot of things happening, but I'm kind of wondering if that's all kind of happening in the background and we're going to see something come out of it.
We'll be watching closely. We'll also be airing live anything and anything that might be available from that meeting. By the way, I will say, when Syria's president was at the White House, there was no Q&A with reporters. I'd be curious to know if we see anything of that sort when MBS visits later this week.